After a couple of weeks has gone by without an update video, you're probably expecting so much progress in this video. Well, I hope you're not too disappointed. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. So here's the deal. If you're not familiar with what's going on here, I am turning this 200-year-old barn into a fish room. I've been doing updates talking about the progress of said fish room build, and over the course of the last few weeks, that entire thing has gotten completely turned upside down, and well, it's for a lot of reasons, and I guess I can go through the list of excuses now, but we're back on track. So a few weeks ago, I got a call from a good buddy of mine, Chris Klein, that owns Carolina Aquatics over in Kernersville, North Carolina. He offered to have me at his facility for a couple of days, watching how they receive big, massive imports of fish and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say no to that. And when he contacted me, there was really only one time that it could be done, because if I had waited, there was going to be Christmas the week after that and then New Year's, and the shipping schedule gets all screwed up and all of that. So really the only time I had to do that was that week that I went out there. So it was an unexpected trip that just happened. Like, we talked about it on a Sunday and I was there on Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, it happened really fast. If you didn't see that video, I'll put a card up in the corner for it. That was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. So when we're talking about the schedule of this fish room build, that really screwed up my entire week. And I don't mean that as if it was a bad thing. That was a very valuable trip and I'm glad I did it, but it did kind of mess with the flow of what I was doing here. First of all, I can't work on this fish room on Mondays. It's just not possible. That's our busiest day for packing orders. And then Tuesday, I was getting as much done as I possibly could. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I was gone both days. And then Friday happened, and it was just one thing after another. And then last week was Christmas, and then there was New Year's. I'm actually recording this on January 2nd. I think it's the 2nd. Today's the 2nd. Yes, the day after January 2nd, whatever. Happy New Year, everybody. So you're probably expecting to see way more progress than what you actually see. And unfortunately, that's just not been the case, because holidays, surprise business trips, all of that. Done with the excuses. Let's move on and talk about what it is that I have done, and that is this wall here. Now you're going to see some tanks missing. I will explain that in a minute. But the first thing in order to start this whole project that had to be done was moving that rack that you see there down the wall. But before I could do that, I had to take the 20-gallon long rack that was back there already and remove that completely. Now, if you're wondering what was going on there, Lisa and I were doing some fun little projects, and they just kind of got neglected and we lost interest and moved on from it. And so that was a rack that was just completely wasted. So we got it out of here, drained all of the tanks out, and got it out. Now, we didn't throw those tanks away, nor did we throw away the rack. In fact, Lisa has an idea for that rack where we may put it in the fish house, and she might start some breeding projects, which is kind of why we built it to begin with. But anyway, she has an idea that would be a lot of fun, and we'll document it on this channel, but that can't get done until everything else here is done. So stay tuned for that. Maybe she'll do something with that. Maybe not. I don't know. We got 920 longs that she can use. Whatever. I had to get that rack completely out of the way so that I could move the 6 50-gallon low boys down into its place. This was a very smooth process because those 50 low boys, we just keep immersed plants in there. So we only have like 2 inches of water in there. So it took no time at all to drain those out and move everything down. Really not a big deal. And the floor over there is surprisingly level, unlike this other side of the room. So it was a very smooth process to get it down in there. Now, on the topic of immersed versus submerged, that's something I haven't talked about a whole lot on this channel, why we keep plants immersed. If you want to know more information about that, if that's something that you're curious about, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a video in the future of why I do that, why I keep a lot of the plants in here immersed versus submerged. That might be changing, and it's an ever-evolving process, so we'll have to see how it goes. But again, you want more information on that? Just let me know. Oh, and by the way, when those tanks were drained and removed from that rack so that I could move it down the wall, I took that opportunity to drill those tanks, the 6 50-gallon low boys. Yes, my record is still intact. I did not break any of those 50-gallon low boys. I don't know what that brings my total up to, but it's a lot without breaking a tank. So very excited about that. Got that thing into place. It's done. Now we move on to this rack here. Now, if you've been following along with this project in its entirety, you'll notice that I built these racks differently than I did all of the other racks that I've built so far. I did that for time purposes. These racks in this style go together much faster. They're much easier. Anybody can build racks like this. And you might be wondering, is it going to be strong enough? Because with the racks before, I was notching out the 2x4s, which even some people still thought that wasn't enough. I don't know. People overkill the hell out of fish tank racks, and they go crazy online about it. I don't know why that happens, but we're not talking about supporting dump trucks on these racks. We're talking about a few aquariums, and in this case, we're talking about 4 20-gallon tanks on each one. Yes, it is a lot of weight when they're full of water, but I mean, think about this just for a second. They build decks that go on the back of your house using the same process as this. Yeah, they put lag bolts into the header or the stringer or whatever it's called, but still, you're depending on screws to hold up your family as you sit out there and eat hamburgers and hot dogs and potato chips. I mean, if you can trust that to hold you up and your grandma and your kids, why is it so ridiculous to think that we could hold aquariums up? It's just insane. Trust me, none of these racks are going to collapse. The tanks are not going to fall down to the ground. It's just not going to happen. They're there, they're rock solid, and they're so much easier and faster to build. The last rack that I build in this system, I'm also going to build that way. It's not laziness, it's just making smart use of my time. So the way they're constructed is very simple. It's just a shelf that is screwed on to the side posts, and then I put another piece underneath that, which is also screwed down, just to add extra support. But if I'm being honest with you, it's probably not even necessary, that extra 2x4 that's underneath. Lucas Bretz builds them this way without even putting that extra piece in there, and his racks aren't collapsing. So, and I've done it that way in the past too. It's fine. Use 2.5-inch screws, and in some situations like these corners, I use 3-inch screws to go through all 3 pieces. Just trust me when I tell you, they're solid as a rock. They're not going to go anywhere. I don't need to keep beating that dead horse. So once that rack was all cut and fully assembled and all ready to go, I had to do one of my least favorite things in the world now. It used to not bother me, but now it drives me crazy, and that is level this whole thing off, attach it to the wall, attach it to the floor, do all of those things. I'm still having nightmares over what happened with my 1840 breeder wall. That was ridiculous how much leveling I had to do there. But I'm happy to say that with this, again, just like down at the end, was no problem at all. I did have to shim it a little bit down the line, but we're talking about like 1/4 of an inch. Nothing compared to what happened on this other wall. So we have a very uneven ski slope in here as far as the level of the floors. But over on this side, it was nothing. It took me maybe 30 minutes to level everything off just with regular shims, attach it to the wall. We're ready to rock and roll. Now, just like I did in the snail room, I put plywood on all of these shelves. If you want to see the construction of that snail room, I will put a link again up in the corner for that. All of the videos on this project will be in one playlist. It's called Fish Room Build. It's not complicated. It's all right there. But if you're interested in that, I did the same thing. I put that sheet of 1/2-inch plywood on each shelf just to provide support all the way around the aquariums. I don't know what my cats are doing, but they're making noises and it's driving me nuts. What are you doing? You're making me crazy. This is his barn, not mine. So anyway, that plywood is going to provide support all the way around the bottom frame of all of the tanks. It's, again, probably overkill, but, you know, listen, I'm not afraid to overkill things, and it just takes a few minutes to cut those sheets of plywood up and attach them there to it's no big deal. It's fine. It works. Speaking of some of my least favorite things to do, once those shelves were in, the rack was built, it was leveled off, everything's good to go, ready for aquariums to go on it, I took that opportunity and took that time to drill all of the tanks. And this is where we get to the big missing gap. No, how dare you think that it's because I broke all of those? No, that's not the case. Here's the deal. These tanks came from the snail room. These were the tanks that Lisa was originally using for snails. A bunch of those tanks have been moved over to the fish house, and she's using those for snails as we speak because our business must go on. So they're over there being used currently for our inventory that's on the website, and I need some of those to not be used for snails anymore, and then I can put them in here. You know what I'm saying? And so once we transition all of the snails that she currently has in the fish house into the snail room, the brand new and improved snail room, then I'll be able to free those tanks up, bring them over here, and put them into this system. But I had to drill all of the tanks. It's become like just a part of my life, being in this position, drilling. It takes forever. I don't enjoy it, but again, very happy to report I have still yet to break a tank while drilling it. I haven't said I haven't broken a tank while preparing to drill it. This one, victim. So here's what happened. I got some of the empty tanks that we had down in the fish house or over in the fish house, and I was bringing those over here, and coming into my barn is kind of a hassle because I got to keep the dog out, and sometimes I got to keep cats out or keep them in actually, and it's a thing. So I'm carrying tanks and I'm trying to manage the door so that animals don't go, and I set this tank down too fast on the floor and I popped it. So I understand. It's right there in the spot where I drilled all of the tanks, but I promise you, I didn't break it drilling. My streak is intact. I don't know the math, but it's a lot. It's at like 60 now, somewhere around there, without breaking a tank while drilling it. I've only broken one while placing it down on the ground too hard. I guess that's a good record. I've said it so many times that I'm going to say it again. Drilling aquariums is not a big deal. It's not this doomsday thing that a lot of people might think it is. People who have done it know that it's easy, but people who haven't done it are scared of it. And I completely understand that, but it's really not a big deal. Drilling tanks is easy. It's just not very fun, just because, you know, it's slow and it's a pain in the butt. But it's not that difficult. It's very easy to do if you have patience and you just take your time. Don't rush through it. You're not trying to impress anybody. You're not trying to win a race. You just want to successfully get a hole drilled in the tank for bulkheads without blowing your tank up. It's really not that big of a deal. Just buy a good bit. Don't buy that cheap junk off Amazon. Don't open that Amazon can of worms. Amazon's really been pissing me off lately. But what's new? But somewhere where Amazon did come through for me, it only took them 2 weeks to do it, is I got these pipe clamps. So I can finally do the drains on here. We'll talk about that in a minute. On the topic of drains, I forgot to mention, yeah, I did put the drain in before I installed all of the racks and all of that. I think I have some footage of that. Same 3-inch PVC that I've been using throughout this whole project so far. So now I've got all of the new racks, including the snail room, have the drain PVC behind them, and they're all running to that far corner down there. well, all of these are. Then there's a separate one that's running on, or that's not running, but it's behind the 40 breeder wall. I'm going to tie all of those things together and run it out of the building next week. Yeah, let's talk about next week. I guess we're not there yet. Scatterbrain, write a script, John, then you won't do this. I forgot to mention, after I drilled the tanks, I painted all the backgrounds. People ask me what kind of paint I use to paint the backgrounds. Whatever's cheapest, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to look good. Not in a scenario like this. You're not going to see it when the tank is full of water. The background is just going to look black. You're not going to notice fine little imperfections and stuff like that. So just slap it on and call it done. It's not that big of a deal. If I was going to be painting a background to go in my living room or somewhere where I'm looking at it all the time, I'd probably take more care. But for this, I just want the backgrounds to be black so I'm not seeing the wall. Did I say background again? I want the backgrounds to be black so that I'm not seeing the wall behind it. It's not a big deal. Whatever's cheapest. And the paint store hates me, or the hardware store where I buy paints hates me, because I'm just like, no, whatever's cheapest. I'm just painting aquariums. I think I paid like 20 bucks for a gallon. It might have been a little more. I don't know. At this point, who knows how much I've spent. So now we find ourselves with the 40 breeder wall built, the snail room built, this built, and I'm not going to get started on the center rack yet. The reason why is, I think, pretty exciting, but it's also kind of a victim of the schedule and the way our schedule has just completely fallen apart here because of holidays, and I don't need to go through all of that again. I'm going to try something that I think is going to be cool, and I don't think it's going to mess up the schedule because it's all stuff that has to be done anyway. Let me explain. I've decided that I'm going to get all of the tanks that I've put into this system so far fully up and running and operational. Water changing system, air system, everything, before I move on to this center rack. And I'm going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, I want it to be up and running. That's the exciting part, right? I want to make sure I don't have any leaks, and I want to do all of that. You know, it'll be fun. It's exciting to get that part of it done. And we can actually start bringing fish in here. Why not? Why delay it? It's not like everything has to be up and running before we can bring in our first shipment of fish. So what I'm going to end up doing next week, my plan is to take these fancy hose clamps that I got off Amazon that only took me 2 weeks to get, and I'm going to start installing all of those drains. These tanks here, you can see the water line up top. I have most of the way done. I have not done the airlines yet because I ran out of 1¼ PVC. I'm actually going right after I'm done filming this to the hardware store to get more of that so that I can get that installed. And then what I'm going to do is the system that is set up for the center rack here. I don't know if it's on camera, but I've got the airline stubbed down here, and then I've got the water lines just elbowed and pointing that direction, but they don't go anywhere yet. I won't put those in until the racks are in. I'm going to cap those off so that they're completely closed off, and then actually get everything up and running, which is exciting. It's going to be a lot of really tedious over and over and over type work, which would be cutting all of the hoses for the drains, cutting all of the airlines that we're using for water and air. Just a lot of over and over tedious, monotonous, whatever word you want to use. I do well in that kind of scenario, so I'm actually looking forward to it. By the end of next week, I want all of these tanks running. And, oh yeah, there's the drain. For the drain, I'm going to do something controversial. I'm going to do something that a lot of people that like to hug trees are going to frown upon. But it's what I'm going to do until I come up with a better scenario. A lot of people have asked about this, so let's spill the beans on how I'm going to do this. The 3-inch PVC that I'm putting in for all of the drains are going to run out the corner of the room over there underneath the second floor It's only 2 stairs, but you know what I'm saying? The dry goods area, it's gonna go underneath that and out of the side of the building. And then I'm literally just gonna take a piece of drain tile and run it down to the end of the building, and I'm just gonna run it out into the yard. And that's where the water is gonna empty for now until I figure out a better solution. I'm not gonna dig a massive drain field. I'm not gonna, where I need to put this water somewhere, I'm gonna put it out in the yard. And it's gonna be a drain tile so I can move it and water my grass with it, but only in like a big puddle. But listen, before you freak out about that and think, what a tremendous waste of water, you're hurting the environment, you're just dumping all of that water and wasting it, there's a couple of reasons why this is okay. First of all, I live in an area with a very high water table and very sandy soil. So if I drain that water out into the yard, it's gonna soak down into the ground fast. I mean, it happens really, really quick. So it's not gonna be a huge deal there. And we're not talking about as much water as you think. I don't want to do math though, but let me figure out this rack and hopefully make you feel a little better about it. So if we take this rack here, when it's got all the tanks on it, and the 3 low boys, which these 3 low boys on the bottom, I am gonna fill all the way up for submerged plants. We're talking about, for that rack, 630 gallons total for that entire rack. Then if we go times 25% of that, we're talking about 157.5 gallons. So let's just call it 150 gallons. That's how much water would be used to do a water change in there. That's how much is gonna drain out and just drain out into my yard. Again, temporarily, just to get this project done, that's where it's gonna go. 150 gallons, think about this. If you have a 150 gallon tank in your basement, are you gonna go to great lengths to transport that water somewhere so that, you know, you're doing it the right way and people aren't gonna be picketing outside of your door? No, you're gonna drain it right into your yard. When you wash your cars, when you do things around the house, when you water your lawn, how much water are you putting out in there? I bet you it's over 150 gallons. So it's really not something to panic over. It's not something to freak out over. And I will be moving it, probably not between every single water change. I'm gonna move it when it gets in the way and I'm needing to cut the grass or whatever. But or this area over here has got a lot of water. It's got really green area because this is the best water in the world to fertilize your grass with. I'm gonna move it over and I can put it wherever I want and water my grass with it. It's no different than you using a sprinkler system to water your grass. So let's not freak out about it. But one of the things that I do plan is to one day, it's not gonna be before this whole project is done, I can promise you that, I'm gonna borrow my neighbor's backhoe and I'm gonna bury that drain tile and I'm gonna extend it and use the drain tile that has holes in it so that I can disperse that water out almost like a drain field. But a small one that's just maybe 75 feet long, and you know what I'm saying? The pipe will run out of the building, down the length of the building. It'll tee off and it'll disperse the water that way, 3-4 feet down into the ground. I live, like I said, in a very sandy area. The water is not going to be a problem. If I was going to be using 5,000-6,000 gallons a day in this building, then I would have to do something more drastic. But with the way the system is set up and the amount of water that I'm using, even if I change water in all of the tanks, it's really not going to be a huge problem getting rid of that water. But long term, you know, we have a vision. Long term, our long-term deal is to build a bigger building with more tanks, more water, more everything. I'm trying to avoid a sneeze. Oh, God, I hate sneezing. Old fashioned, just rub it on the sleeve like I'm a 5-year-old. When we have that new building and we're using a lot more water, then I will need to take more drastic measures. What are those measures going to be? I don't know. Haven't figured that out yet because that's a couple of years down the road. For now, this is what I'm going to do. Some people might not like it, but I really don't care. So the agenda for next week is going to be to do that, to run that pipe out of the building, take that piece of flexible drain tile, whatever that stuff is that you call it, and run that out. And then that part of it will be done. I can fill all of these tanks up and get this thing operational. That's going to be really exciting. Obviously, I'm not going to be ordering fish next week. We're going to need some time for everything to kind of do its thing, but sneeze again. Oh, God, that's my least favorite thing in the world to do. Why is this happening? So that's what I'm going to try to do next week, and it'll be exciting to get things up and running. And I also almost forgot, big shout out to people, I don't remember their names, that suggested in the comments of previous videos to just drill a small, maybe a slight amount less than 1/4 inch hole in the back frames. Let me show you. Right here, probably got an echo. Drilling a very small hole into these frames to run the air lines down. This is another tank that came to us broken. I promise I didn't break this one. That is a great suggestion, and it works really well to contain that airline that is for the air supply and the water supply. Big thank you to the people who suggested that. I have a drill bit that's just slightly smaller. It's like a 32nd of an inch smaller than 1/4 inch, and it holds that line in there real nice and snug. It's great. A little bit of a hassle to get it down into it, but once it's in there, it's holding it nice and snug. I'm not going to need to put any silicone or anything on it. So whoever it was that suggested that, thank you. That's exactly what I'm going to do on all of these tanks. That'll be next week too. So drilling 1,000,000 holes in the frames of all of these, running all of the drain lines from the tanks down to the main drains, getting that drain run out of the building, and getting these things full of water. That is the agenda for next week. I got to make up for lost time here. So that's what the plan is. And I'm super excited about it. What am I going to do for lighting? Probably nothing next week. Again, I'll add lights down the road. We'll get there. It's not going to be a big deal. They're probably never going to be turned on anyway, unless we're packing fish. Other than that, why have lights on unless they're plant tanks? So there you go. There's the update for the week, and quite a few sneezes and gripes and excuses, all kinds of excitement in this video. I realize it's not as much that's gotten done here as probably should have been, but pretty good excuses as far as I'm concerned. I'm excited about what's happened. I need to stop talking to you because I need to go to the hardware store to get all of the stuff that I need to get this all, build the fish room kind of thing. So I'm not going to talk anymore. Thanks. Bye.